Hey, what's up guys? Welcome to another video in which we are going to learn about exception handling with try except block. So guys, basically it is important to handle exceptions that we have already seen. In Python, we use the try except block in order to handle the exception, and this is the syntax in order to handle the exceptions in Python. So basically, first of all, we have the try keyword followed by the colon, and then we have the code that may cause the exception. For example, we can have a number being divided by 0, in which case zero division error might occur, which is the exception. And not only the zero division exception, but if any exception that occurs inside this try block, we can have the except block just following this try block in order to catch that exception. So basically, inside this except block, we have the code in order to run when the exception occurs. So guys, this we are going to check with the help of examples now. So over here in the VS code, what we will do is, let's say we want to divide a number by 0. So we want to provide that code inside the try block. So we have this try keyword followed by the colon, and then over here what we will do is we will say number variable, it is equal to 10 divided by 0. So guys, if we try to run this code over here, 10 divided by 0, for which the zero division error will occur, which is one of the exceptions in the Python programming. So what we have to do is we have to catch that exception inside the except block. So over here what we have to do is we have to provide the except keyword followed by the colon, and then we can have the code in order to handle that exception. So over here we can simply provide the print statement, and then we can say number cannot be divided by 0 over here. So guys, this is the code that we are going to execute if the number is getting divided by 0 and the zero division error is occurring. So let me just save this file now and try running this code. So as you can see, number cannot be divided by 0. This line of statement is getting executed over here, and this is the line that is getting printed. Now guys, what would have happened if we don't have this try and except block? So let us just comment out these blocks over here. So instead of this, we are just having number, it is equal to 10 divided by 0, and then let me just comment out this line as well. So number is equal to 10 divided by 0, only this line of code is there. Let me just save this file and try running this code. As you can see, we are getting zero division error, division by 0, and this is the exception that we are getting on the terminal. So over here, since we have not properly handled this exception, this is the way that we are getting the output. But we can have the proper output in this way, like we can have a particular statement being printed by using this try and except block. So over here we have just provided the try block, and after this we have provided the except block as well. We have provided a beautiful statement that is a user friendly statement which says number cannot be divided by 0. And when we just save this file and try running this code now, it says number cannot be divided by 0 if the exception is occurring over here inside the try block. Now guys, let's say if there is no exception occurring inside the try block, so still the print statement will be executed. Let us check that. So over here, instead of 10 divided by 0, we will say 10 divided by 2, in which case the answer will be 5, and that will be stored in this number variable, and there is no exception that is occurring over here on this line of code. So let me just save this file now. What we will do is, as a confirmation, we will come out of this try and except blocks, and over here we will say end of code. So we can just confirm that this is the line that is getting executed at the end of the code. So over here, let me just save this file and try running this code now. As you can see, end of code is getting displayed now. That is because there is no zero division error that is occurring inside the try block. That is because we have changed the expression from 10 divided by 0 to 10 divided by 2. Now guys, there is another thing that you can do, catching the specific exceptions in Python. So as you can see, this is the example. Over here we have the try block, and then let's say we have the variable name as even numbers, and this is the Python list. As you can see, we have 2, 4, 6, 8, which is the list of numbers. All are even numbers, and what we are trying to do is we are going to print the even numbers with the index 5 over here. But guys, as you can see, this is the index 0, then we have index 1, then we have index 2, and then 3. So 3 is the final index. The total length of the list is 4, and 3 is the final index that we can access, but we are trying to access the index that is 5. So basically we should get the index out of bound error over here, but we can also specify the different exceptions that we have seen so far. So basically, while providing the except keyword, we can provide the zero division error over here, which will say denominator cannot be 0. And then we also have the except keyword followed by the index error. So in this case, since we are having the multiple except blocks, it depends on the control flow. The control flow will check that which type of exception is occurring, and based on that exception, it will try to match that exception. Is this exception related to zero division error? No, in this case. So is it matching with the index error? Yes, since it is related to the index that we are trying to access, which is not possible. So it will print this statement that is index out of bound. So let us check this block of code over here. I'll just copy this and paste this in the VS Code since I'm a little bit lazy in order to type all this code once again. So over here, let me just save this file and try running this code now. As you can see, it says index out of bound. That's because the exception that is matching inside this try block is the index error, and this is the print statement that we are supposed to print if there is an index error that is occurring. Now guys, let's say you want to print this denominator cannot be 0 statement. So what we have to do is we have to make sure that inside the try block there is a divide by 0 expression. So what we will do is over here, I'll just remove these lines of code and we will simply say number it is equal to 10 divided by 0. So in this case, divide by 0 expression is occurring, and that is why we will get the zero division error, and in this case we should get this statement that is denominator cannot be 0. So let me just save this file now and try running this code. As you can see, denominator cannot be 0 statement is getting printed. So guys, it depends on you. You can have the specific exceptions being specified over here, and each exception will be handled differently. This is just a print statement that we have included over here. You can have any code inside these except blocks that you want to use based on your requirements of the project. But guys, remember that whatever matching exceptions that is occurring inside the try block, the control flow will try to match with those exceptions one at a time, and once it matches with a particular except block, it will try to execute those lines of code inside that block. Now guys, let us move to another task. Over here, Python try with else clause. So basically, in some situations we might want to run a certain block of code if the code block inside try runs without any errors. So for these cases, you can use the optional else keyword with the try statement. So guys, what happens is sometimes there will be no errors that are occurring over here. I'll just remove these lines of code. So I'll just keep one except block over here, and I'll just remove this exception as well, that is zero division error. So what we are doing over here is denominator cannot be 0. I'll just save this file and try running this code. So this denominator cannot be 0 is getting printed over here. But guys, what if this denominator is not 0? Let's say if I provide the denominator as 2. So in this case, this statement will not get printed. That's because there is no exception that is occurring. And if there is no exception occurring, no code in the except block over here will get executed. But what if we want to execute some line of code? So over here, we can simply provide the else part. So basically what happens is, let's say inside the try block, if we don't have any exception that is occurring, so no block of code that is inside the except block will get executed. But let's say in the end, if we have this else block, so whatever code we provide over here, it will get executed only when there is no exception that is occurring over here inside the try block. So over here, what we will do is we will say print, we will simply say inside else block. So guys, this is the code. Let me just save this file now and try running this code. As you can see, there is no denominator cannot be 0 that is getting printed, but over here we are getting inside else block. That's because since there is no exception that is occurring, the control flow is not going inside the except block, but it sees that we have the else block over here, so it executes those lines of code inside the else block. Now guys, what if there is an exception that is occurring? So let's say if we provide this as 10 divided by 0 as the expression. So let me just save this file now. This line should get printed over here, but whether this else part will get executed, let us check that. So let me just run this code once again. As you can see, denominator cannot be 0 is getting printed, but the code in the else part is not getting printed. So that's because since the exception has occurred, we are getting into the except block but not into the else block. So guys, this is very important. In case the except block is not getting executed, we can have the else block in order to execute some lines of code that you want to execute. Now let us move to another task. Over here we have something called as Python try finally. So guys, this is another important important concept as far as exception handling in Python is concerned. So basically in Python, the finally block is always executed no matter whether there is an exception or not. So the finally block is optional, and for each try block there can be only one finally block. So guys, what we will do is basically the understanding behind the finally block is irrespective of whether there is an exception that is occurring or not, the code in the finally block will be executed. So over here we will simply have the finally keyword followed by the colon, and then we will say inside finally block. So over here we will simply have double quotes, and inside this we will say inside finally block. So guys, first of all we will check when there is an exception that is occurring, this line of code will get printed and we will not go inside the else part, but the control flow will go inside this finally block over here. So let me just save this file now and try running this code. So as you can see, denominator cannot be 0, which is this line of statement which is getting printed, and then it is not going in the else part but it is going in the finally part. So it says inside finally block. So over here exception has occurred and the control flow is going in the finally block. Now let us say there is no exception that is occurring. We say 10 divided by 5 over here. So let me just save this file now and try running this code. It says inside else block. So basically there is no exception that is occurring, so the control flow is not going inside this except block, but it is going inside the else block. So over here, as I have told you, if the control flow doesn't go inside the except block and if there is a else block, basically this line of code will get executed, and then at the end we have the finally block which is getting executed, as you can see, inside finally block. So irrespective whether there is an exception that is occurring or not inside the try block, the finally block will be executed every time. Now guys, where this thing is important, basically let's say if you have the database connection or if you have file opened, so you can close that file or close that database connection inside the finally block over here after carrying out your operations in the try block, which might have certain exceptions that might occur during the runtime. So guys, during such instances the finally block becomes very important in order to execute those lines of code irrespective whether there was an exception that has occurred inside the try block or not. So guys, practice on your own so that on different inputs you get different outputs. Please make sure that you like this video so that it reaches to more people, and subscribe to this channel so that you get the notifications on upcoming videos as well. The next video that we are going to talk about is custom exceptions in Python programming. So stay tuned.